Welcome back, everyone, to That Amazon Ads podcast, where today we have a celebrity on the show with us, Miss Destaney Wishon. Is it, actually, I've never known how to pronounce your last name, Destaney, and I should have clarified that first. How do you say your last name?
You nailed it. Wishon?
Okay. I was like, it's either like make a wish on a star or it's Wishon. I wasn't sure.
We'll just keep it simple. Just run with it.
Yeah. And I don't think Destaney needs any introduction. I'm sure anybody who's following this podcast is certainly exposed to their Amazon learning, and they have seen Destaney around. She's one of the most prolific writers, I think, on everything pertaining to Amazon ads. And now the CEO of what was formerly Better AMS rebranding to Better Media, which I think is just such a huge accomplishment, because if anyone's wondering what does that mean, here's my interpretation of it. Their agency is saying they have conquered the Amazon space and now they're going to conquer the world. And so they're expanding beyond just the Amazon to go after Target, Walmart, Wayfair. I don't know, Destaney, I'll let you tell me if that's incorrect and give yourself a better introduction.
No, I could not do better than that. That was fantastic. Thank you. You're spot on with the rebrand. On one level, you have marketplace expansion and diversification, right? That's obviously a core focus for the majority of sellers at this point. Amazon's gotten a little bit more competitive. There's more opportunity, more marketplaces being launched. So we wanted to position ourselves for that future. But I think there's a secondary aspect of it that we can go back to and probably fuel a lot of the conversations we're going to have today. AMS was Amazon Marketing Services. AMS is typically PPC, right? It is search, it's pay-per-click, and that's all fine and dandy. But Amazon's running out of inventory or real estate on page one, right? Amazon cannot continue to shove more ads into the search results without decreasing the customer experience. And that's Amazon's core focus, right? Make the customer happy, take care of the customer. They don't want to see more ads on the page. So what we're really building a foundation for is also just expanding it to more media as it pertains to Amazon. Rufus has been rolled out. That's been an exciting one, right? It's Amazon AI. It's starting to incorporate shopper insights per individual customer. That is going to disrupt Amazon advertising. So as we see Amazon selling and pushing towards more display, more DSP, more retail media network, we want to prepare for that future.
That was awesome.
Interesting.
Also, I forgot to greet Andrew too. Normally I say, Andrew, how are you? So
that's okay. I didn't need an introduction.
I jumped too far in. I'm excited. I'm sorry.
No, this is all about Destaney. I don't care. You didn't need to call me out.
Yeah. Well, also, I mean, it's not like, how are you is usually there's not much. No one else really cares. No one listening to this cares about the
same as last night. Same as last night when we recorded that other podcast. So
yeah, we try to have a little intro where it's like talk about the weather or our clothes or something like that to. I don't know, segue, but might as well just dive right into it. But yeah, I mean, Destaney, there are so many topics we could talk about, and I think one thing that we haven't really covered much in depth that I know you're very knowledgeable about, and not just knowledgeable about, but have a lot of experience on. I mean, this is, I believe, a big part of the offering of Better Media is this whole kind of integrated omni-channel approach and comparing performance across all advertising channels, but especially tapping into these weirder, I think they're weirder, but these super upper funnel tactics. And that's something I'd really like to kind of focus on for today, is just really tap your brain on the upper funnel portion of advertising. And there's we can get into a lot of complicated components here, such as AMC, which is Amazon Marketing Cloud, which, and then streaming TV and DSP, and all this kind of stuff. But before we, kind of really start diving into that, why don't you just try to help everyone understand what do we mean when we're talking about the upper funnel? And is the upper funnel for everyone? Would you recommend the upper funnel to everyone, or only brands, advertisers who meet a certain criteria?
I was about to go on a absolute soapbox when you mentioned upper funnel. So I'm really glad you set me up in that way, because upper funnel, DSP, AMC, all three of those terms, I think, typically raise a little bit of red flags in a brand's mind, right? They've either had a terrible experience historically, or maybe they were sold into something they shouldn't have been, they weren't ready for. So I spend, I would say, 60% of my time just like myth busting when it comes to upper funnel. So I've gotten really good at kind of telling the narrative that makes it make sense for a brand. But like, let's take chapstick, for example, right? How do you differentiate chapstick? You have like flavor variations, how it's branded. You can't really differentiate on price point that much. Like there's not necessarily premium chapstick that makes a big enough difference. When a customer goes to Amazon, they see 20 different chapsticks when they type in chapstick, right? And how do they tell a difference in each one? There's not a lot of opportunity to really say my chapstick's 20 times better than everyone else. So when we're talking about upper funnel, what we're talking about really is how do you educate a customer on why your chapstick's better before they make that search? So how do I run a streaming TV ad? How do I run a DSP ad where I have more creative opportunity to say, my chapstick is healing, it's menthol, it's peppermint chapstick? And how do I educate that audience so that way when they go to Amazon and they type in chapstick and then they see my ad that they probably would have seen anyways, they're more likely to convert, right? That is what awareness and education really is. I think a lot of people have been sold into like the impression-based awareness, which is like a Super Bowl campaign for Coca-Cola and just reminding everyone. Brands typically think that, and then that's where they get scared. Like, am I going to spend $50,000 on impressions that have no return? No. When we talk about full funnel, we break it down to smaller pieces, right? How do we educate a customer? How do we remind them that they need chapstick because winter's coming up, and convince them to then purchase? So at its simplest, that's what moving up the funnel is. I'll pause there.
Interesting. Yeah. I like the way you put that. It sounds like, as we go up the funnel, we're basically just creating additional touch points. We're allowing ourselves to frame the interaction with the customer in a different way than what we can through a search ad. Search ad, very simple, straightforward, just a static ad most of the time. Whereas with video, with these more upper funnel tactics, we have ability to differentiate the creative and differentiate the messaging and create that frame for the customer, speak to specific, desires of the customer ahead of time. So that way, when they come and search, you're top of mind. You're first. When they see you, they recognize you. They've seen that brand before. I'm curious, to hear about, that process, that path to purchase, and how that all flows together. Like we've talked, or I've seen you talk about how, the path to purchase isn't so linear anymore. And I'm curious to hear a little bit about how those upper funnel tactics play into those multiple touch points, that path to purchase, and some of the benefits around that.
And also, if you wouldn't mind, just define really quickly, like, what is path to purchase and how is it measured? And also, I think my Wi-Fi is really slow, so I apologize if there's some lag and interruption going on. But yeah, go for it.
As long as you don't ask me to also start diving into attribution and the differences and linear versus last touch versus first touch, that we're going to save that for a different podcast. But
Next episode,
path to purchase in general, breaking it down as simplest is, what is the path that a customer takes that leads them to purchase your products? So a lot of people, when they're running Amazon advertising, and in my opinion, it's because sponsored products were so successful, they tend to forget that people don't just immediately click on an ad and buy a product, right? There is a level of what drove them to type in the search term. What drove them to decide they wanted chapstick? Was it dry lips, or was it seeing an ad on Instagram or Facebook, or maybe you ran a video ad and showed them your new product that's groundbreaking, right? There's this whole concept of all of your ads are working together. Amazon's pushed this concept for years, but I think brands thought it was theoretical and that it was just Amazon trying to get us to spend more money on DSP, which is a little bit true. But we got access to this thing called Amazon Marketing Cloud. And Amazon Marketing Cloud, at its simplest, is a room to host all of your data, from sponsored ads to DSP to your organic insights to your audience insights. And we can pull queries that allow us to see things like actual path to purchase or ad type overlap. And what that insight shows us, like as an example, one of the brands we just pulled has a $100 price point, average for the category is $50, right? we were able to see that it's a higher price point product. So customers click but don't immediately purchase because they need to think and they need to shop around. So I think their average like time to conversion was like 5 days. So, okay, let's take that insight. We don't want to optimize bids daily, right? Because we know that someone may click on Monday but not purchase till Sunday. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday could have high spend, low ROAS, and then Sunday that number changes, right? That's a quick actionable insight. The second thing, though, that I think is really important that Andrew kind of tied in was like ad type overlap. We're able to now say when a customer views our streaming TV ad on Twitch, they come to Amazon, type in the search bar, and they are more likely to convert on our sponsored product ad. So our other ads are making our sponsored product ads more successful.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think that is?
I think it's mainly due to creative control. So as you mentioned, we don't have a lot of customization. Like let's take a super oversaturated category, garlic press, right? For anyone who's been in the space for a long time, that's a funny joke of how the hell do you differentiate a garlic press? All of the images look the same because Amazon doesn't give us a lot of creative control over main image. All the titles look the same because all the keywords are similar. So the only way to differentiate is your price point. And then you're just all racing to the bottom and you're competing directly with the manufacturer who has economies of scale, right? When you start layering in things like streaming TV ads or sponsored brand ads, you have the opportunity to add creative. And creative increases your click-through rate and conversion rate because now you're saying, this is why you should buy my product. It's look at this lifestyle image. It's amazing. Or here's a video teaching you why my product's best.
Yeah. It sounds like you're basically saying on Amazon, you have more creative capabilities to actually portray and build the brand or the brand messaging and portray that in a lot of different capacities. I love that. Steven, go ahead.
Yeah. So I definitely have a lot of questions myself around upper funnel tactics because, I mean, we've always tested this and really depending on the brand, I mean, most of the time it ends up being, hey, we're going to test these out. We run a test. We see that the ad sales as attributed by Amazon look great, but the total sales doesn't actually really make a dent. And then just the ad cost of total sales climbs. So now there's a couple of things here. Number one is that for smaller brands, they don't have access to DSP and all these bigger things. I mean, now that there's a self-serve streaming TV, that's certainly an interesting option, but it doesn't necessarily get click-throughs the way, traditional web ads would. So I guess I have a two-pronged question here. Number one, people typically just roll out sponsored display ads that are and maybe they're just using those like dynamic e-commerce or responsive e-commerce variations of it without doing anything super custom. And those are the tactics that I haven't seen do super well. I'm curious what your experience is with those in particular. And then the second part of the question is, what is your favorite upper funnel tactic?
Yeah, one thing you called out in the beginning that I'll touch on is attribution and like total sales lifts. And I think that there's kind of this fine line of you have to spend a decent amount of money to really see a difference. Because if you're only attracting 100 customers or showing them an awareness ad and only 12% of them come back to Amazon, you're not going to see a total sales lift. Mm-hmm. But Amazon has given us the keys to be a lot more granular and a lot more segmented with our targeting. So attribution's always a big one. Like if you're only running retargeting, your top line sales probably aren't going to increase, right? But Amazon now allows us to negate, hey, I don't want to target anyone who viewed my ad. I only want to target people who viewed my top competitor's ad. So in terms of like attribution issues, top line sales issues, like 100% of that can be mitigated with really good granular setup. So that's kind of one thing I wanted to say. And then two, like you mentioned, they have given us more accessible tools. Sponsored brands can now do lifestyle images with multiple images in a carousel, right? That's a huge value add. So even if you're small, you can use their, generative AI creator and have 5 assets ready to go and dip your toes into moving more upper funnel. Same thing with video.
Yeah,
sponsored
that
display
generative
video.
AI thing is horrible. I don't know if you've tested it.
We've split tested it actually, and our results are almost in line.
Really?
Our results have almost been in line with professional grade creatives. Like when I say professional grade, I mean like ads being ran on Whole Foods and commercial style creatives. The prompt is obviously needs to be oversimplified. If you start adding anything too complex, it doesn't work well. But we've done like seasonal. During Christmas, we took every seasonal product and we adjusted our creative to have like a holiday asset in it. And it went really well. And we're comparatively, I think the balancing act here is like scalability. It's not scalable to take 3,000 products and have a professional marketer create 3 headlines. So even if we were taking a little bit of a loss potentially on like click-through rate, we're making up for it in like time to market. So that's something that we're trying to balance as well.
Yep.
It's the accessibility aspect, right? Amazon's giving us assets to move up the funnel in a way that's never been capable before. Sponsored display in general, I'm a big fan of. I've been running it since the product display ad days back in AMS 7 years ago when it technically first rolled out.
PDA.
And PDA, yeah. I think where people get confused or mess up, and this goes back to my original spiel, is they try to go too broad. They create a sponsored display campaign and they throw in like 17 different audiences and targeting. And then they're like, why isn't this working? When you take sponsored display and you break it out by target everyone with a higher price point than me, target everyone with lower reviews than me, here's a retargeting ad based off this look back window, it does a lot better. And you can control some of those issues like view CPM attribution or all the other things we're dealing with.
Yeah. So I'm curious, not to get too far into the weeds, but I know you're a big believer in single product campaigns.
Yep.
I'm wondering, when it comes to sponsored display, do you, let's just say you got one product in there, are you creating multiple ad groups where there's a different targeting tactic for that sponsored display? Like within this campaign, you have like one ad group 7-day look back, one's 14-day look back, one's in market, something like that? Or would you even keep those all in separate campaigns?
All separate. And I'll break it down really simply. All budgeting is at the campaign level, not the ad group level. So hypothetically, if you have one campaign with $100 a day budget and you have one remarketing ad group and one top competitor targeting ad group, those two are going to perform very different. Your remarketing is probably going to run at a $10 A cost. Your top product is going to run at a 100% A cost. If they're in the same campaign, you can't control where your budget goes. You might want to put more budget into remarketing because it's more profitable, but you cannot because you ran it in an ad group style instead of a single campaign style. So
you're doing one target, one product for display per campaign. Cool.
Yep. We will blend targets if it's like a multi-child variation, or if they're similar enough, especially for display, that's actually recommended. So if you have 5 different water bottle variations and they're all just deferred by color, we would probably run them in the same group from a scalability perspective. But if you have one water bottle that's built for outdoors and one water bottle that's built for sport, you're going to want to segment them because it's very different audiences that you're targeting, and you don't want to overlap between your outdoor audience and your sport audience.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Steven asked a little bit like kind of what your favorite upper funnel tactic is. You mentioned sponsored display. That's one piece of it. I'm curious, Destaney, give us the formula. What's the proper blend between these tactics? How and when we start to go into upper funnel, what's that process look like? What are the steps we need to take? What do we go straight to streaming TV, or do we go maybe start with sponsored brands a little bit, or where should we start?
In full transparency, the kind of minimum sales of the brands we work with a month is $100,000 a month. We typically don't work with brands smaller than that just because our strategies are built for brand building and scale. So I will say if you are smaller than that, then my recommendations would actually be pretty different. They'd be more sponsored product heavy, more sponsored brand heavy. For our brands that are full scale, really looking at that more full funnel approach, around 75% of sales still come from sponsored products when it comes to PPC. 15 to 20% across sponsor brands video, 5 to 8% from sponsored display just due to limited real estate. When we start layering in DSP, if it's primarily retargeting, we'll probably take around 10 to 15% of that PPC budget and maybe layer in DSP retargeting. If they start really moving upper funnel with more conquesting strategies, more audience strategies, more video strategies, then we'll probably take an additional 10 to 15% of budget and invest in more upper funnel strategies.
How do you like the new sponsored brand video product collection ads?
I think I like everything that Amazon's doing on the creative side. So I think it's always been a limiter to scale. Like having to do one video per product was an absolute pain to get creatives. Like we always struggled with that. But now that we're able to do it like the carousel collection, it's fantastic because we can take a product or we can take a video with 3 products in it. Like maybe we have pre-workout and MCT oil, which is something that people typically potentially buy together, and creatine. Throw them in one video, have a carousel, and it's a lot more scalable than having individual videos per ASIN.
Yeah, and you can just occupy so much more real estate on the page too, because you can run them in tandem. You can have that top product collection ad with a video and that rest of search video ad. So I've really been a big fan of that new creative capability, allowing for the product collection with videos. Super nice.
Yeah. Vertical video as well. That was another rollout that's been really nice just because UGC is a lot more scalable. Most UGC style videos are vertical. So now we can take that and incorporate it directly into our advertising strategy.
Yep.
Have you guys been testing out UGC compared to like commercially shot vertical?
Not too much. We haven't done too much just because it's not very scalable. Like Amazon doesn't make split testing incredibly easy when it comes to video assets. Like it's just not a lot. But I have a feeling it's going to do well because I think people are tired of commercial quality videos. I think people want to see something a little bit more raw and real.
UGC, for those who don't know, is user-generated content, which just means someone with their iPhone just filming them using the product. Go ahead, Andrew.
No, I was just going to ask, when it comes to like split testing these creatives and video creatives inside of sponsored brands, you now have the ability to do ad groups within sponsored brand campaigns. Have you been experimenting with with single product ad groups for sponsored products? Now we can do single creative ad groups potentially for sponsored brands. Have you tested that? Seen any sort of data around that?
We haven't, because again, just budget distribution's like our biggest priority of, we want an actual split test. We'll typically turn on and off campaigns. We'll keep the same campaign, copy it over and turn it on and off to have a more accurate like week over week time frame. Amazon it's on the roadmap to give us actual split testing capabilities. So it's really exciting. So that way we don't have to like gimmick our way through it. And because it's not an accurate split test, not being able to go immediately, similar audience, back and forth.
So it sounds like you have a lot of campaigns per account, huh?
We do. And, it's not scalable for everyone.
Yeah. How often are you having to go to Amazon to request extensions on like the 10,000 campaign limit?
Is it 10,000?
It originally is, but they actually go through and they refresh it automatically as you get closer. Actually, one account, I hit a targeting limit of like 2 million targets in one campaign. I had to ask, and then they told me, it's like they refresh it every 60 days or 30 days or something. And we just kind of crushed through that.
We don't do a ton of single keyword campaigns, so that helps. Like it's not like we're a quartile. But we do definitely build out segmented campaigns. Like for any one ASIN, we typically have sponsored products ranking campaign, auto campaigns, profitability campaigns, branded campaigns, conquesting campaigns, awareness campaigns. Same thing rolled over to the sponsored brand side, but no autos. And then on the sponsored display side, typically, depending on DSP or display, retargeting, conquesting, category, branded, defense. So, and then you layer in imagery and video, right? So I would say for any one ASIN, we typically have a minimum of 20 campaigns. And the reason we run it like this, again, not recommended for smaller brands typically, but we can take a budget and segment it towards the brand's goals. So when we're working with like large CPG or enterprise brands, it's like, okay, 15% of your budget's going towards brand defense. 40% of your budget is going to incrementality. 20% is going to rank. How are we influencing your organic presence and your market share? And the 10% can go to, conquesting or whatever.
My opinion, and then I'm curious if you share it, is that I think video impressions, especially if it's like non-skippable content, is powerful. I think static images impressions don't do much, especially like the typical sponsor display ads that you'll see on Amazon. If there's just some ad appearing with a brand name and a headline, I think that has virtually no impact on this consumer. A lot of people think that there's some little seed planted and next time they see the brand, they're going to buy it. To me, I think if they click on it and they hit the product page and then, leave, I think that's valuable. That's, I think, making a much larger impact. But the reason why I say all this is because when it comes to these at least on platform display tactics, so forget streaming TV, DSP, all that other stuff. When it comes to on platform tactics, my opinion is that you should really only go with the CPC model to truly measure the impact of sales, to have a little bit of a cleaner attribution. And also, I think you can just get better CPC. Sometimes, I don't know if anyone saw my LinkedIn post that I posted last night at midnight, but I had this one display tactic that had a $2,000 CPC because it was a CPM attribution. So yeah, I'm curious if you share that same opinion that if it's on-site display, to go CPC.
I completely agree. And I think a lot of brands don't realize that the attribution guidelines for a view CPM sponsored display are based on a 1-second view. So think about how many times a customer is viewing a competitor's page and your ad is on screen for 1 second. All they need to do is scroll down from your competitor, scroll down and read their reviews, and it is attributed because it was a 1-second view. So even if they never click on your ad, maybe they go back into search and then they buy your product, that ad is getting credit. Where traditionally on the CPC model, they had to click into it because, if they click your ad, it deserves credit. So 1-second view. So when everyone's running these view CPM campaigns, I have seen actual gurus in our space post videos with hack to a 1% ACoS and 20 times sales. And
goodness.
I'm like, no, don't run view CPM at all because it's just giving credit to your organic presence. So your top line never increases, but now your tacos is inflated because you're spending more on this campaign that's misreported.
Right.
It's not a lie.
And on top of that,
that's traditional display. I'm going to throw that out there. Like off platform, it makes sense, but
right. And just because it's a viewable impression doesn't mean it was actually seen. Like
1 second.
The actual eyes, the actual eyes of the person maybe never actually.
We're not
looked
doing
at
eye
it.
tracking
it was just on
here.
the screen. Exactly.
Not yet.
But if they click it, they saw it. If they click it, there's 100% chance that they saw it, unless if they misclicked.
Yes.
But
100%.
I've got a question for you, Destaney. You touched on it a little bit in the beginning of the episode, but you talked about Rufus. You talked about an individualized customer experience, which is super intriguing to me. This is something I've thought about, like customized web pages that are specifically built towards your personality type, your process in the customer journey or whatever. I'm curious to hear some of your predictions just around how the customer experience on Amazon is going to change and how some of these like artificial intelligence things could play into creating that more compelling, more conversion driving web page that's specific to a certain customer.
Yeah. So another complex subject that I think can be broken down in pretty simple terms for customers. Amazon has all of your data. They know everything that you're searching historically. If we go back to chapstick, let's say a customer types in chapstick. The future of Amazon search is going to say, Destaney typed in chapstick today. Last year, she bought peppermint chapstick. The year before that, she bought peppermint chapstick. Let's show her an ad with only peppermint chapsticks because we know that's her preference. We know that's what she's looking for. This is the price point she typically shops in. This is the style of brand she buys. I have a customized page for me. So no longer do I have 5 brands that are able to bid on peppermint chapstick, even if they're a menthol or a vanilla. Now Amazon is taking my historical insights, layering them in with a PPC model. So that's going to be insanely powerful because now we're going to be able to get really granular. And that's why I always say, like, there's this level of media, which is typically more demographic and audience targeting, right? When you're on Facebook or Meta, you're usually saying, hey, I want to target every female who owns 2 cats between the ages of 25 and 29 in this income range and serve them an ad. Amazon has all of that data, but they also have your shopper data, which is where some of the other platforms are missing out. So it's going to be really powerful. It's just, will they over-index on granularity, creative? We're not sure.
Yeah, like how weird could it get? Like, I want it to say, hey, Andrew, like, thanks for stopping by again. Like, I don't know if I want that necessarily. So yeah, it'll be interesting 100%. To see how they balance that weirdness with also creating a better experience.
Yes.
So Destaney, I'm still kind of a little hung up on this whole CPM thing. So my other unpopular opinion, kind of going back to it, is that I don't think static images are even effective. Like, that's I think there's a lot of power in those video ads. And so that's why, even as we were talking about, like if it's on-site Amazon stuff, it's probably better to do CPC. With these new vertical videos, they have to be vCPM, but I think a lot of us are willing to do that. If Amazon's going to force our hand, but we can get access to a bit of a premium type of ad format, I think we're down. But generally speaking, and I see you got your peppermint chapstick there.
Yes, that's why I keep looking at my desk and I'm like, that's what.
But do you think static image ads have much of an impact at all, or would you tell people that that they should just avoid those if they're trying to do an upper funnel tactic? If they're trying to go upper funnel, static images, yeah.
Well, let's just look at sponsored brands. They fully deprecated running sponsored brands without a custom image. That's pretty telling. And when sponsor brands custom image initially rolled out, I mean, one of the craziest, I think, lifts we saw was like an increase in, Amazon says 200% is the average increase in lift from a sponsor brand ad without a custom image and a sponsor brand ad with a custom image. I think we saw upwards of 600 to 700% on a few campaigns that we tested. So, I mean, they're powerful. Sponsored brands is probably a little inflated because it is the number one billboard on the page. So their image is a lot larger than maybe what you see in sponsored display. Sponsored display under the buy box, I don't love the placement. I don't think it's a great graphic. I do think the video is a lot more eye-catching. But sponsored display also shows up right next to the reviews and in that billboard ad above the reviews. So I think the lifestyle images that are there are really, really powerful. I'm probably not as much as video, but I do think it decreases the customer experience to have 28 videos across search. So it's a balance of both, I would say.
Right. Yeah, I guess I was thinking more in terms of like DSP. Like, imagine you're just like shopping any random website and you're just seeing ads appear all over the pages. I just don't think those do much. I think if it's, those ads in search, I think that's very different because they're pretty clicky.
Yeah.
But in general, just like ads on other websites, just like little images that people like hate, I don't think those are effective. I don't know. People still do them. They put a ton of money behind them.
In.
Right.
AMC helps unlock that for us. And again, if you're going super broad, I don't know if anyone's been served with the American Express display ads that follow me around every single place on the internet from Amazon DSP, but Amex is always top of mind. I see it all the time. Obviously, I use Amex, so they need to negate me from the audience. But that's where that granularity matters. If I'm creating an ad, like let's say I'm serving, again, protein, I have the ability to segment. Let me build a creative for someone vegan, maybe feminine. Let's create a graphic specifically for that person versus let me do a protein ad for a man who is only worried about mass, right? When you start getting granular and really aligning your audiences with your creative, it's hard to scale, but it does a lot better. Because now when someone's scrolling on, CNBC or Fox News, and they see an ad that's perfectly related to them, it's powerful and it still sticks. And then you use AMC to say, hey, every single person who saw this ad off platform and then saw a sponsored product ad had a 12% higher conversion rate than sponsored product ads alone. You have the data to then say, okay, let's spend more. Even though my DSP doesn't look like it has a high return, it's making my sponsored product ads 12% more powerful.
Right. And I'm sure you've tapped into those brand lift studies on the DSP, right?
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, I think those are cool. That's something that I'm much more eager to pay attention to. But also, it's Amazon grading their own homework.
It is. And that's why I like really small things like Insights and Planning tab has branded search metrics. So that's another one. Maybe you ran a really expensive video campaign in January. Did your branded searches increase in February? Did more people say, hey, I saw this Lego ad here, and then I went and typed in Lego in February? Like, that's a good opportunity to back into that insight as well.
Right. Yeah, that's such a powerful metric. But at the same time, Amazon doesn't really tell us what they're defining as branded searches.
Or where it's at, or all the different names for a brand is another. I've had questions.
Or
about
if
that.
it does include your branded products. I see a cat tail popping in there. Yeah. I wish they would let you see what's classified as a branded search.
I agree.
And modify it. Like if there's some mistakes in there, or if you want to add stuff, if they did that, that would be huge. But yeah, unfortunately,
like duct tape or Band-Aid. That's a good one. What does duct tape and Band-Aid's branded search look like when their name is synonymous with the category creation?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, in that case, that's really difficult to define. All right, I've got another question for you. Let's say someone has video creative, they just invested a lot of money into getting some good video production, which, by the way, for our audience, next week, we're having a video ads specialist come on the show, and he'll be talking about best practices for video creatives, because we're big believers that these video ads are very expensive. And so what's going to make you profitable or not is just the quality of the video. So that'll be a good episode to have. But let's say you invested, you've got a good video, and your choices, you have 5 choices of where you can put this video. You can do sponsor brand video, sponsor display video, DSP, streaming TV, or Twitch. And I'm curious how you would rank those through those 5. So put those in order of where you would first put spend it before you start reaching down. And again, that was sponsor brand video, sponsor display video, DSP, streaming TV, and Twitch.
Immediately start with sponsor brands video first. It is the most bottom of the funnel, and it is the best real estate on the page, in my opinion. Sponsored display doesn't get near as much real estate, and you can't control when or where it's going to show up. So sponsor brands video, make sure it's a great video, make sure it's performing well, no minimums, no commitments, anything like that. Sponsored display video, just do it for the sake of doing it, but it's going to be the most minimal in terms of sales in audience size, so it's not really scalable. If I had a choice and I have access to DSP, I'm always going to push DSP and then segmenting into either Prime Video or streaming, solely because we have so much more control over audience and targeting and negating on DSP than we ever have an ad console. So if you have access to it, go there. If you don't have access, you could run sponsored TV, but we have no controls over audience. We're just solely relying on Amazon's ability to programmatically optimize it. So that can be really scary. And we don't get a lot of metrics there. So that's my order.
Cool. And then Twitch last or not at all? Or
Twitch is combined, I feel like.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I would combine it into like DSP targeting in general, is like definitely segment it out and just see what performs best of all the streaming offerings.
Cool.
All right, Destaney. So you've shared a couple ways that you're currently using AMC to track path to purchase, see some overlap analysis between these different audiences. What are some other ways that people can utilize AMC? Are there any audience creation capabilities? Can we tap into that in any way? What other ways can we utilize it as we start to go up the funnel and utilize these broader tactics?
AMC in general is insanely powerful. I'm going to open up with that. I will say it's definitely the new shiny object in the industry because we've never had access to these amount of insights. Most brands are not even spending enough on DSP to understand AMC. So when I'm talking about path to purchase or ad type overlap, I present it as this is amazing insights that we can then roll out to the rest of the category, right? Like the fact that we can see that sponsor brands does influence sponsored products, like the whole category, the whole space needs to know this. But should every single brand go incorporate AMC? Like, no, absolutely not. Like 5% of the brands that even we manage, I'm like, yeah, you're ready for AMC. You're spending enough and you are running a in-depth enough strategy to make it make sense. But to answer your question, AMC is probably one of the most powerful tools for scaling in that regard. So path to purchase is really powerful because we can say, like, what is the perfect path? Do we start with a video? Do we end with a retargeting ad? Figure that out. Ad type overlap is powerful. I love that. Audience creation is huge because then that allows us to, again, all the granularity I've talked about with DSP. That is probably one of the most powerful resources within AMC. And there's a lot of tools that have amazing queries built out for it. PackView has an amazing audience creation tool, which allows you to really zero in. You can do things like, hey, this person used to be a subscribe and save customer and now they're not. Go back and target them. this person added to cart but did not purchase, go back and target them. Like the granularity and control is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I've definitely been tapping into that with ImpactView. Really been going crazy. We're going crazy with those audiences. Love that. Thanks for sharing that.
AMC is a pain. I mean, it was like they rolled out this amazing tool and they're like, do you know SQL? And I was like,
exactly.
Do not.
Yeah, same. I was like, I do not, but I'm going to go try. I'm going to try to learn. So I was doing some courses. I could get like some, with the what were they called? Like the standard queries that they've already created. Using those with a little bit of education. The pre-built templates. You can kind of figure it out a little bit. I could get some decent queries. But then we realized that the data wasn't actually matching, had to submit a case, blah, 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 whatever. Anyway, I learned a little SQL in the process. So I
did not go that route, but I'll give a big shout out. Serena has been posting amazing content on AMC.
Absolutely.
I've done a few webinars with him. He also has built a great product, and something that people don't quite realize is you have to set up your own instance to start pulling AMC. They're now adding retroactive data, but you need to set that up. So if you think you're going to be needing it, like I know IntentWise has an amazing route for getting your AMC instance set up. PackView, again, has amazing visualizations. They were ahead of the game on the audience creation. I think they were the first to market with that tool. So that's another opportunity. You can try to pull it internally, but really templated analytics are the way to go until you're, spending millions of dollars a month. When you're spending that, I think that's when, okay, let's start building custom queries. Let's hire, an analyst internally to figure this out. Until then, both of those tools are amazing resources in that regard.
Yeah. And I know you guys are building out a pretty robust in-house tech whole, platform. Is this something you guys are already fully on, or are you still using PackView to help with some AMC insights?
We try to use PackView for the most part. 90% of our tech is built out for operational scale. I mean, as everyone's heard me talk, we recommend a lot of granularity, a lot of strategic optimization. So you give us a brand with 20,000 SKUs and we can have 50,000 campaigns turned around in less than 7 days. We don't need to turn them on, but they're launched and ready. So that way, the moment a brand comes to us and is like, hey, I need ranking up and going, it's as easy as flipping a switch. So everything we built out is for that. AMC will be a bigger part of the picture. I think once they have more templated analytics and once it's more viable and actionable for everyone. Right now, it's like PackView's built something amazing. Serena's built something amazing. Let's utilize what's on the market.
Yeah. Now, I think we're kind of coming to a close here on our time. So wanted to just start wrapping up with a couple final questions. But first, I forgot to ask you at the very beginning, how did you even end up in the Amazon space? That's something I always like to ask people because nobody ever grows up thinking, I can't wait to be an Amazon manager. So what
Absolutely not. I'm born and raised in Bentonville, Arkansas, which is the home of Walmart. Pretty much every single CPG brand in the world, I would say, has an office in Bentonville. A lot of people don't realize that. I mean, Spin Master, Coke, Pepsi, General Mills, Kellogg's, Duracell, every company. I got hired at an Amazon agency at the time that was servicing all of those CPG brands with Amazon expertise. I was the first digital marketing hire. And within 14 months of being there, they signed an insane brand and I got handed a $10 million budget. So nice. It was sink or swim time. I think I was 22 years old. I didn't know how to communicate. I didn't understand corporate. I didn't know PPC as well as I should have. And I got thrown in and I learned really quick. And then I left and wanted to kind of build a company more focused on culture and long-term growth. And here we are. If you would have told me 6 years ago, I'd be like the CEO of a media company and talking about Amazon ads every single day and every hour of the day, I would have been like, why? But I love it now.
Yeah. And then lastly, here's a question I made up the other day, but I really like it. And we asked it to our last guest. But what's the one lesson that took you way too long to learn that you wish you would have learned a lot sooner? And that could be either specifically in your profession in Amazon, or it could be more of like a life lesson, or both, either one.
I would say, wow. My mind is spinning on all of the different things to back into, from happiness to entrepreneurial success to PPC success. I would say the biggest thing for me is how much of life is on the other side of fear. There are things I have been so scared to do. My first speaking engagement in London, I'd never spoken publicly before in my life. I was scared. I'm not that extroverted as people probably assume. And I was so scared. And I just forced myself to sign the contract, and it ended up being one of the most amazing things. Like, that's all my role is now. Same thing, moving to Florida. I was so scared to move 19 hours away. And now it's like, wow, it's the best decision I ever made. So all of these like limiters and fear in my life, when I just said yes and forced myself to do it and surrounded myself with people who kept me accountable, it's like, that was the best decision I ever made.
Nice.
So just jump.
Answer. Do you have another answer? Just because it was, you said you had a bunch of stuff come into your mind. Anything else? Any other lessons?
Was that one not good enough, Stephen?
Oh my gosh.
No, it's phenomenal. I just want more wisdom.
The other biggest thing was to plan your future with who you want to become in mind and not who you were historically. I think that's something really big. A lot of people, and I was the same, when my job shifted from being like a career to being an entrepreneur, was a really difficult time in my life, because like the people I was surrounded with at the time were in very different places. And when you become an entrepreneur, it takes a lot out of you. Your mindset changes. You start talking about a lot of different things. You're never not thinking about the business. If I would have realized sooner that I needed to surround myself with people who were a mirror of who I wanted to become rather than who I was, I think it would have helped expedite that process a lot. I spent a lot of time with people I probably shouldn't have, maybe didn't understand my future vision because I had a past with them.
Yeah, that's super important. Love that. Well, Destaney, this has been an absolute banger of an episode. We're so grateful for you coming on, sharing your time with us. Want to give you the opportunity to share where people can connect with you. I'm sure they already know, but let everybody know where they can go to connect with you and what you're doing at BTR Media.
Yeah, so our website, of course, bettermedia.com, I think, is our new website. I should confirm that, but we can drop it in the comments.
It is.
But other than that, LinkedIn is probably the best place to follow the whole team. We're always trying to keep the industry up to date with content, education, tutorials. So check us out there, and let us know if you have any questions.
Right on. Yeah, definitely go check them out. We'll have everything linked up in the show notes, make it really easy for you to find them. Thank you so much again, Destaney. Without further ado, I should not say that at the end of this episode. All right, we're done. See you guys next week on That Amazon Ads Podcast. Why did I say that?
I liked it. I thought it was flowing. I was like, I don't know what he's going with.
Without further ado, let's end the episode.
It's Friday. It's the weekend. That's what we're waiting on.
Yeah. Clearly. That's right. I love it.
That was awesome. Thank you, guys. That was a lot of fun.